Hi everybody, this is Helena Babish speaking. Welcome into the group. I want to discuss this super important topic that has been a big deal maker in my own personal experience and with each and every client I work with in all of my, whether it was one-on-one work or whether it was in the group format. And this is something that is definitely going to be speaking to you if you want to know more about the mindset, the strategy, the front end, the back end of like how does running, high end. So that's high end sales for me is anything above 5K sales, right? And I don't mean that like for 12 months at all. So I would, for me in my circle, this would be anything like for 30 to 90-day tops, right? That level of delivery. So for those of you who don't know me yet, even though this group is pretty much secluded, intimate, very like chosen type of people that I'm letting in here. So I want to welcome everybody. I want to thank you for your time and for your contribution and for allowing me to share my experience, right? So as some of you know, my clients call me Mind Detox and Cash Acceleration Mentor, and that's because in very unique ways that through my own methods that I developed, because I wanted to create something of high value, high transformation, first like from my own experience when I started, right? Because when I started, I mean, I was like desperate and, broke coach, right? Like even in my previous businesses, I would always have issues with asking for money, right? Like whenever I would be delivering some sort of a service or something and, the payment would be like afterwards, it would be like I would get so nervous, I would get so shy, like I would get like, the whole kind of like unworthiness would be just like so every time, So if somebody else was not doing that for me, like if that was not the setup, right? Like I would just crumble, and even though I loved delivering, to my one-on-ones or to the small groups that I was working with, like I would just crumble and sweat and I would just get so nervous, like you wouldn't believe it, right? When, I would have to ask for the payment. And then if they didn't have the right amount of money, what then, So I was like, even maybe like 7 years ago, I was so ignorant when it comes to money mindset and when it comes to how to handle, money and sales. And I believe that I was just crap at like, dealing with numbers and dealing with like currency, like, just with numbers, like I would just faint, like, so that's the hard truth, right? Like, and I would just prefer to leave that, whether it was somebody who would be working with me or, a, a manager or a boss or whatever, which is kind of like, you handle that, because I don't do that. I do coaching, I do training, I do therapy, I do what my work was as the expert. But I would be like, oh my God, I will not do not put me in the sales position because I will not sell anything, right? It's not my expertise, it's not my forte. I hate it, right? I don't like people, like paying me, whatever, right? So I would just feel horrible around money and receiving and sales and everything, right? So when I started like shifting into the online coaching, from being trained as a coach and from being, a hypnotherapist and everything, and I was like, I knew that I needed to find a different way of how this, is to be done, because there's the same system, like in the coaching industry, when I started 5 years ago, was kind of like the same system. Like you would get paid like, tiny dollar, per hour kind of amount, or per 10 sessions, which was the preference, right? And you would create some results with your client, right? And that was, that was pretty much it, right? And so once I realized that there's like so much potential and there's so much need and demand for coaching in online and like general, like worldwide, right? I was like, oh my God, like I need to create my own way of how I want to do this, right? I'm sorry, my earring fell off. That was too funny. Okay. So I was like, I need to create like my own way, because either it was like charging, I don't know, 100 or 150 per hour, which was like already like a lot in coaching industry, or you would have to have this like huge, teams and huge systems, and like everything was done, just like from far away. You would never even see the head coach. And that's not who I am, right? And that's not how I deliver. That's not how I work. That's not where my genius comes through, right? So I was like, so how can I work on my own process where it would be, things done in a feminine way, right? And how it could be spiritual based, how it could be like, so that I would be working and introducing people to, what I call my kind of like the front end part is kind of like spirituality, the soul, the money parts, right? Which I obviously, noticed that, I've really had to dug into that. Like I've really had to bite that apple, and I discovered eventually, and a few years into the work, I actually discovered with one of my mentors, like I'm actually amazing at like sales. I'm actually amazing at selling anything of high tickets to people who are seeking that level of transformation. And but the thing, whatever it is, I need to believe in that. It has to be aligned. It has to be what we call in coaching industry congruent for me, right? So it has to feel right. It has to feel something like I have to believe in that, right? And that belief, like that faith inserted, that's what created the, like, if you want to call it the momentum, right? That what kind of like it put me from non-believer, into a believer, and actually, sales coming through, right? And so that was the work that I noticed so many people are struggling with, especially women, right? Because as I described in the beginning, like it's not that, it's only recent that we are, kind of invited and kind of like we're like making way into this like wealth and money world, and like becoming more and more of our own, persona in it, right? And so finding your own language around that, finding your own like method, if you will, right, around that, and kind of like, taking what the, whatever the learned expertise is so far, whatever therapy, like psychologist, like psychiatrist, like whatever the, like the previous expertise was, like there, that's, that's wonderful, and it's something you can build from and kind of like, develop into this kind of like mentoring that comes from what do you want, right? Instead of what would people pay for, right? So that was like, that's the big difference in like how I approach everything with my client, because I'm a firm believer, and it has proved like over and over and over again that whenever we work from the desire, like what does the person want, what is their desire, and there's like an extensive like welcome package in all of my work where, it becomes obvious, to me reading, and also to the person, answering all the questions. It becomes more obvious, it becomes more clear, it becomes more crystallized, it becomes like what is their purpose slash, usually it's going to be a bit of a problem, like it was with me, like with the money and sales. I mean, I was like, like I would pay you, so that I would not have to be like, that I would not have to be, making the sales, right? And so, imagine my surprise when I was like, oh my God, I'm actually like a rebel type. I'm the maverick, right? So for me, creating and investing in a big way is really not a big deal, right? And so when people invest in me, for me, that's just like, of course, right? Because now the maturity and the experience and all the client results has like confirmed that confidence, right? And that's also how, when I go with my clients through their, their so far client results, that's what I'm looking for, right? So that's one of the part when we're creating the signature system, right? So that's where we cover the niche, that's where we cover the pricing, that's where we cover the packaging, that's where we cover the 4-step genius strategy, right? So that's something that we use for the marketing, right? And that's where the quantum leaps begin, right? And the quantum leaps is just, my favorite expression, because that's how it feels, that's how, like, we're preparing for the marathon, right? So that's how it feels, right? Like everything is preparing for that, leap to occur, right? And so signature system is like one out of the 5 things, right? So signature system, so that means your meaningful work put in an orderly system, with copy language to it, something that you will always use in your marketing. So you don't have to be like, every time you want to be writing a post and you're like, who is my client, right? Like, who am I talking to, right? And then there's layers to that, right? Because we have more conscious layers, and we have also more soulful layers, like, higher self layers, soulful sessions even, right? Where, this gap between who is my client, how should I be talking to them, what are they thinking, what are they feeling right now, even like, where are they, Sunday morning, like, what are they doing on Sunday morning, right? Like, we can tap into all of those resources, and that's something that my clients have used over and over and over again with their work, because again, it's so important. You can have all the tactics in place, but if you don't have that belief that creates the bridge from, what are you seeing right now in your, situation right now, towards like the unseen, but the wanted, the desired, right? Like the belief is the gap, right? And the work that we do on the signature system is very practical, is very creative. It's very like, you get to put in all of you. It's very holistic, right? So that's how I'm always, everything, in my world is holistic, right? Like, I'm a firm believer in that. And it's like, signature system, right, with everything that I've mentioned, goes very well with then the money mindset, the wealth mindset that we work on from day one, right? And we work on, if it's needed, we work on the core wounds. So that's like all the beliefs around lack, everything that we learned, everything that we grew up with, everything that, other people are still telling us every day, like every time we tell them some good news, and they're like, boom, and they're just like insert, like they start bombarding us with like worry or doubt, or, like being concerned, but like very negatively oriented, right? So, they start to influence us with their, negative faith, which is fear, right? And that's something that we don't need. And that's something that we kind of like in the beginning, you kind of like need to take, that firm boundary and guard yourself from that, right? And so in order to kind of like maintain your own energy, in order to, keep yourself emotionally balanced, right? Because things will come up, your subconscious will show up in numerous ways, right? And that's something that I see, and I remind you and I guide you through that, right? Because it's so important that we don't get like discouraged or we don't get lost. Because, for me, I see it as a process, and I already know where you're at, like, right? In my process, whether it's like 100-day process or the 90-day, more like very sales oriented process, right? And so with the money mindset, comes also like the emotional work, right? Because especially like emotions start coming up, and it's not just fear, it's going to be just like all kinds of like, lower vibration emotions, and then also like, higher vibration emotions. And, we learn through experience, how to balance that, how to react better, and how to deal with that as we go and as we're becoming more and more, visible or successful, or whatever that is, right? And then that also then, so that's like signature system, and then money mindset, and, emotional work. is kind of like what creates that kind of like peak performance feeling. And it's like, it creates also that feeling of like you're changing your own beliefs around, you know, whatever the lack experience right now is, whether it's lack of sales, whether it's lack of clients, whether it's lack of great clients, whether it's lack of your own like work lacking transformational level, right? Whatever the lack is, right? And so then we move into the manifestations, right? And this is where we teach and learn around, you know, how desire works, how faith works, you know, how intuition works, you know, how universal law work, and, you know, how we can start using that for your own, you know, benefit, right? This is not just like journaling and stuff like that, even though for some people that works, you know, very well. But it's like it's something about reading into the client and kind of like allowing yourself to be that highly intuitive, because you are, and you're completely capable of doing that, you know, allowing yourself to be so intuitive that you can just like always give them the perfect answer of what is needed right now, right? Because it's never going to be the same for the different people that you're working with, because each of them has a different personality type, each of them has a different, you know, life story, each of them has a different tangible and intangible gifts. And so that's the, you know, so each of them has different genius strategy that they can build from. And that's so exciting, because what it means is so creative. It's never done for you. It's never like boxed in. It's something where you always have, you know, the opportunity to grow, to multiply, you know. And also signature systems, once your preferably one good solid signature system is done, you can use bits and pieces of that for creating not just one-on-one work, which is something that I recommend, you know, to everybody to begin with, so that they can gain that client experience, so they can like start delivering the work, right? And so they can get that like confidence, right? But it's like, because great, amazing clients will always come with confidence, and it's not faking it, right? And even if you have to find like one little small thing, you know, that you can be confident around and about, and that's better choice than just faking it, right? Because that's never gonna like produce a good match, right? Like vibrationally, if you know what I mean. So when we talk about money, then we also talk, of course, about, you know, marketing. We talk about, you know, branding. We talk about how to write and how to speak in the language of authoritative marketing, right? How to find self-expression through marketing, how to, you know, how to speak, whether it's in the post or in a video, whatever it is, you know, through powerful client results, right? Like I could have shared this, like, so that was my own experience. That's also like, you know, why the offer that we're doing now, which is like, I'm going to be turning my 100-day one-on-one kind of format. That was like wholly worth, right? So that was where clients kind of like rediscovered their own purpose, and they rediscovered like who they are as a coach, as a mentor, right? And then I would move them into the 90-day package, which was like, now, you know, we get to sell that, you know, and that works phenomenally, right? So the 100-day package is now going to be put in a bit of a different format. So it's going to be into like, I'm creating that in a group experience, right? So I'm super excited about that, right? And, you know, I'm still working on it. So I'm going to be talking about it in the next few days. So the marketing and branding is like something where you start to become, you know, you become the expert, you become visible, you start showing up, and people start listening to you, right? So this is something where it takes, beside the mindset, you know, it takes also like allowing yourself to make mistakes, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to be who you are, you know, as authentic as possible, you know, even if you have like, you know, an accent, even if you're like even if you're just starting out, like it doesn't really matter, you know, because the more confident you are about whatever it is you're doing, you express that kind of like level of trust, and that's what is always going to create amazing results, and it's going to attract also like amazing people, right? It's kind of like when you go out and, you know, if you're like all doubtful and worried, like your whole night, you know, out in the club or whatever, it's not going to be a very pleasurable experience. And what we want, you know, like what I want, you know, for everybody who works with me is like, it has to be, you know, as pleasurable as possible, because trust me, like five-figure sales and five-figure deposits is a very pleasurable experience, but it also brings that level of responsibility that you need to be congruent, you need to be able to, like, you need to be in integrity to know that you are able to handle that. And usually that means you're working with some, you know, you're working with me, we're working on that client delivery. Because the sale, that's just the beginning part. That's just like step one, you know? And then, you know, what becomes and where your like reputation is built, where your leaps and you know, next client sale and, you know, client testimonials, and where your business starts, you know, to get a different reputation as this like premium and, you know, high-end, you know, business, if you will, right? It's all found in the delivery process, right? So making sure you have, and you know how to tweak whenever something is not working, knowing how to tweak, getting help, getting support around that, getting coaching around that, right? That's what like saved my life so many times when I was like, even as a, you know, like a long year like coach, like I had like at some point I had like two coaches because I had so many like different clients and also from different industries, right? So it was like I had to, you know, have support, because otherwise you would be just like burned out, you know. There's like always have your own team of people who are rooting for you, who know what they're doing, right? And who are taking you, you know, one step towards whatever the goal is, right? And whether that's, you know, it's going to be always freedom in some shape and form, and money, earning money, creating money in a way so that most of that money stays with you, stays home, you know, like creating money in a smart way, creating money in a way so that you start like upping your worth, right? And helping others to up their worth, right? Is a very, not just lucrative way of working, but it's also very honorable, right? It's also something that brings a lot of satisfaction, right? So yes, so I was just kind of like looking at that, you know, um just remembering like how there was one client who was like, well, you know, how am I going to sell? Like, it's already like, those clients are already, you know, my clients now, you know, how can I possibly, you know, just come one day and tell them, well, now I have a new offer, like, and it's, you know, 100 times higher than what you were paying so far, right? And this is a legit question, but it's a mindset issue more than anything else, right? Because at this point you already have your signature system done, or you're working on it intensively, right? Because that's not something that we do in like half an hour, right? It's not something that we do like in one session. It's a process, it's a creative process, and it's like, it's not something that I give you. It's like something that has to emerge, right? So it takes, you know, it takes a few nights, like it takes a while for you to sleep on it, and then like to be totally sure, to believe in it, and to be so excited about it that you would buy it. That's why we always say the first sale is always to yourself, right? Whether it's when you're investing in coaching or, you know, working with me, that first sale to yourself, that like you're worthy of investing in a coach or mentor like myself or others. That first sale is like when you do that, whether it's like 5K, you know, whether it's a 5K level or 10K level or, you know, 25K level, is like, that's when you do that sale to yourself, when you manage to kind of like, you know, talk yourself into that, you already have all the pros and cons, you know, and all the like how your client's mind is going to look like. How do you need to talk to them, you know, when you're making your own first sale? Do you know what I mean? It's fabulous, right? So that's why it's and this has been, you know, proven to be the way it works with me, and that's kind of like my belief, you know. So every client, you know, if somebody comes to me, they're like, well, I want to be, you know, earning 7 figures, or I want to be high 6 figures or whatever. Like, we reverse engineer from that into the, so what is the, you know, what is the price level, you know, where they should be working at, and also like what is the transformation level that they're, like, you know, achieving with their clients right now. And then we know what, you know, the gap between that and, you know, how much work we have to do, right? But like every time somebody would be like investing even in like 25K, like even in a matter of like 24 hours or 48 hours, as we had with one, like they would get that new sale in, because it was like a confirmation, besides everything else, besides knowing that, you know, they get the best support for the next 90 days, they get me, you know, personally, one-on-one, right? You know, I'm available for them through Messenger, and, you know, sessions and VIP days online, and, you know, all sorts of things, right? So knowing that, you know, it creates that level of like trust, you know, that they can trust themselves and they're going to be supported. So that's the best self-care that you can do, right? And so with one client was like, well, you know, I'm not sure, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, you know, I'm not gonna, like, that's not how I do sales, right? Like, I don't convince people, you know, people have to get convinced themselves, right? Because this is not a small fee investment, you know, on any level, right? And so, but the thing is, you know, because her desire was so strong, that was the only conversation we had, right? And so, you know, when she ended up deciding for it, and she was like, well, I haven't had this, and there was a lot of like, you know, doubt and everything. And this was something that we were working on for, you know, for a couple of months already. And then the moment she decided, and the moment she said, I'm worthy of this experience, this is where I want to go, this is the clients that I want to be serving, right, at the next level, and she invested again in me, like, I mean, in 24 hours, like, she had, you know, she had a prospect coming out of nowhere, and, you know, wanting to work with her at like very similar, you know, price level, which was amazing, right? So nobody knows that. I mean, I know that because from my experience, I know that unbelievable magical things happen, but it's like also because it's very logical. Like, universe is very logical. Universal laws are very logical, right? Like, it's give, it's, you know, it's win-win, right? So it's an amazing experience, right? And the first step towards that, you know, how to work with highly driven clients, you know, who ask for the sale, offer you a full pay and create outstanding results, even at 5-figure deposit levels, as, you know, today's topic is knowing you know, what is that big problem that you solve, right? And knowing, like for me, I mean, even though it was like you know, it was something that I would never sign up for like 10 years ago. I was like, that's not going to be my life, you know. But it was like, you know, for me, it's like I solve financial problems through mindset and 4-step genius strategy, right? And premium sales, right? So that's how I create, you know, help create the vessel for the purpose, basically, you know, for my clients, right? And so there's a lot of strategy around premium sales. You know, there's a lot of how we can do sales like more naturally, like how we do sales without scripting, even though I do offer a bit of a framework, like how to approach sales, let's put it like that, right? But I'm a firm believer that, you know, if you can sell something, like if you can sell, like, I don't know, to your child or to your partner or even to, you know, your friends, you know, how amazing this movie was. And they go and they see the movie, they pay the ticket, right? They trust you, you know, then you're good to go, you know, because you have that X factor that's needed, right? We all do, right? But just some of us, like we were told, or, you know, we were made believe or whatever, like, you know, that that you suck at sales, or that you're like not good with money, or that you don't know how to handle money, like, because there's different layers to earning money and, you know, receiving money and then managing money. It's like, you know, the more you grow into that money mindset, the challenges change, like the story, the money story changes, and you have to deal with whatever comes up, right? So there's never going to be a place where you can just kind of like rest and be like, I'm good. Like nothing is happening inside of me or outside of me, because that's just never true. We're always attracting and all of that, right? So that's why I also created this group, and that's why I hold it, I called it the high end state of mind, because for it's more of a lifestyle. It's more like, is more a state of being, right, than like whatever is in your bank account. And that's something that as an entrepreneur you'll also have to learn, because as we go through investing, as we go through being paid shit, like a lot of money, right? And like we have to learn how to manage that ego, and how to manage that state of mind, basically, to not get like super overwhelmed, and to not get like super bumped or whatever around the circumstances that it's present in the life right now, right? So it all starts with us, right? And it starts how to show up consistently, to be having this kind of like mindset of like high-end mindset, right? And that shows up in every conversation you're having with your partner. It shows up with every time you're I don't know, picking flowers or food or whatever. Like you don't go from one to another, and you don't just like obey, like, right? Like, because there's layers again to manifestation, there's layers to even like faith work, there's layers to how desire works, there's layers to how we use intuition, and there's also layers like how we raise the standard of our own life and our own lifestyle, right? And that's always going to go through experiencing something new. But to experience something new, you have to be bold enough and believe enough and be tired and frustrated of the old, like whatever life you have going on right now, and difficulties and challenges, so that you are like available for creating a new experience for yourself, right? And that's like every level. Even when you're at six figures, you go like, what is my new experience right now? What is calling me now? What is coming through now? There's always something coming through, right? There's always something coming through. So besides being an amazing person that you are, and being in this group, which I'm very thankful for, and I'm gonna be sharing with you just very shortly today, because it's not like all ready yet, but it's going to be ready in like tomorrow. So it's kind of like what I'm working on is like, which was also the part of my I think we run it like 3 times in 2019. So that was more like testing for me, right? Because I'm very much used to one-on-one work, and that works like all of the time. So now now I was testing and finding ways how that can, how that type of work can work also in a group format, right? So what does that mean? It means that like time-wise it would be a little bit longer, but result-wise it would be the same kind of experience, right? So when we're talking about, we're talking about 6 figures in 6 months, and with 6 sales kind of experience, or at least like creating that kind of like preparing that kind of like how do you say, jumping board, right? So how do we do this in a feminine way, so we're like on track to 6 figures in 6 months with 6 sales? Is something that I'm super excited about, because let me tell you, women are so tired of overworking, and there's no need to be overworking and to get underpaid all the time. There is absolutely no need to be doing that anymore. We know better, we have better ways, right? And for this level of work, you don't need a big team. You need maybe one VA later on, right? Depending how tech skill you are, right? You need to master and hone your own expertise first, and get those first clients in, because everything is going to be depending how you develop and work on your own signature system through clients, right? Like through your own delivery, basically. And that's the beauty of this work, because it's like, it's hands-on. It's like, what are you doing? What is the next client? And things start opening up, right? I was just talking to somebody last night, and we had a short meeting on Saturday, Friday, I think. And, you know, she had some issues with, you know, finding what would be the specific work, whatever. And, you know, she didn't like explicitly ask, you know, if I could help in any way, but was, you know, showing that she's open for whatever, you know, the opportunity would come up, right? And then, so I got home, and, you know, there was this like nudge, you know, something like there was something that would be perfect for her, right? And I just couldn't really like, you know, put my finger on it. And then I was just like kind of leaving it, and I was like, okay, like, you know, whatever it is, you know, let it come up. And it was so amazing, because last night when I was talking to my daughter, I was like, all of a sudden I saw this like a little piece in the newspaper, and I was like, it was in the newspaper, or it was in the Facebook actually, and this person like was advertising, you know, this and this kind of like work, and it was a perfect fit, right? And I immediately like texted her, and she was so happy and she got so excited. And that's how intuition works, right? But you have to become open up. You have to ask for support. You have to like start with like opening up and trusting and believing that something different than whatever you're experiencing right now is totally possible, right? So this is something that every client that worked with me and that we went through this, like whether it was the you know, the 100 days process, which I called Holy Worth, or the Epic Day, Epic Success, which is my signature offer and signature system, which is 90 days. That's 25K investment, and the 100 days was like 12K investment, right? And so this is going to be now a bit of like amazing opportunity for anybody who wanted to work with me for a while, but was like unsure, or the timing was not right, or whatever the excuse was, right? So the way I'm going to be creating this is going to be it's going to be in a group format, but it's going to be like, whether you're present or not, you can be, you know, you can be having the experience of whether it was going to be like a group coaching or not. And so I just want to kind of like, you know, price it down in some ways, right? But not like in the experience way. It's still going to be very much me coaching you, and me delivering the content, and me doing all the work with you, all the one-on-one work also, and whatever the issue is going to be, right? Because I want you to be in like a very different space, like mindset wise, and also sales wise and money wise, right? In like 6 months. Okay, so I'm going to be talking more about that tomorrow or in the next video. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it helped, right? So just to kind of like sum it up, like to work with highly driven clients who ask for the sale, offer you their full pay, and create outstanding results, even at 5-figure deposit levels, you need to know what is that like big problem that you're solving for them, right? So like, what outcome do they want, you know, to achieve with you, so that they can invest, you know? And they love to invest, you know, as long as you're like really delivering what your marketing is promising, right? And I'm gonna give you a little bit of a secret. So if you would give me like 10 names from your environment, you know, 10 people that would just like, you know, when you think about your work, and, you know, like those 10 people are already waiting for your next level. It's always like that, right? And then it can be those people or something else, you know, better will show up, but we start from there, right? And so when you know that you're brilliant and respectful and highly invested in the work, clients are not attracted, you know, you don't like attract them with, you know, I don't know, a perfect, you know, background in your video, right? But they are created, right? None of my clients, you know, ever like invested before at the level that they invested with me, right? So there's like a few key components, you know, that why they invested and why they also got the amazing results that they got, right? But it's like they're already now in your environment, and that's a fact because that's a law, right? And they just need to start seeing you as the expert that it's worth investing in, right? And when they start seeing that, so that's like your marketing, but that like marketing is always going to go from your signature system. So signature system, you know, with your genius strategy and with your niche and pricing and packaging done right and, you know, done in the most holistic way possible is the beginning of your quantum leaps, right? And then we work on the money mindset, we work on the emotional work, we work on the beliefs and on the powerful beliefs, right? How you go from, you know, disempowering beliefs into, you know, what beliefs are actually empowering for you. So for your type of a personality, for your type of the story that you have going on, the life story, right? For your type of like the intangible gifts that you carry within you. And usually this is something that a lot of people is just not conscious. Like there's a lot of unconscious competence going on, right? And I'm gonna talk about that in the next video because that's super exciting and something that like people are, oh my god, really? Like I didn't see that. Like I knew it somewhere, you know, but I was not aware of it like 100%, right? So and then we have so signature system, you know, money mindset, emotional work, and then, you know, manifestations, you know, start to interlink with that, which leads, you know, marketing, branding, and then, you know, money and sales, right? So we handle all 5 of those, and I handle that in all of my work, right? And that's something that we're gonna be working on in the group format. So I'm so excited about that, and you know, I'm so excited that it works the way, you know, it does. And one of my clients is just closing some of, you know, her like sales, premium sales, like and it's been highly transformative, right? And it's also highly transformative when you finally start to position yourself as the expert that you know that you are, you know, but you know, also solves and contributes in a very specific, your own way, right? So there is nothing that it's mine, but it's everything is you know is has your signature on it, literally, right? So yes, that was that for today. I have to run now. Have a beautiful, powerful day, evening, morning, whatever it is, wherever you are, and we'll talk soon. Bye.